All right, wonderful Monday.
You're late again, Dave Schumann. The hell? What are you doing?
What am
Was
I
this
not?
pickleball? This was
No,
pickleball. This was a
I
pickleball call.
I have a pickleball shirt on, but it wasn't pickleball. My son had a Halloween thing parade, but I left there plenty of time, and then I had a call quickly with Derek, who's like my right hand guy, helps me with everything, and he's our now in charge of like our ops and everything for NUC. And so I had a call with him. But of course, we get talking football stuff. So it carried over a couple extra minutes, and then started setting up. I'm like, oh, I gotta jump off.
Yeah, you're a jabberjaw. You're a
He's like,
jabberjaw.
what's
You
that?
talk too much. You talk too much. You're chatty.
I learned from the best. What
I know. So let's talk promo. myfootballcamps.com/D1. I'm just doing the White Rhino. Kade George going through his stuff. And it's funny because there's a lot of things that people don't understand about football. So I'm talking about the uncomfortable nature for a quarterback when he can't step into a throw, when there's bodies at his feet, and how important that is as a QB pressure. You don't have to chase, you don't have to sack, but if you make that pocket uncomfortable for him, he's either going to step back or out, and it kind of can ruin the entire play. And that's what he does. He blows these things up. He's great against the run, but when it comes to pass pro, he's not a chaser, but he's a guy that's going to put his lineman back into your footwork, and he's going to screw up the play. And nuances like that, I think, are important for people to understand.
Yeah, he's a 0-0-1 tech guy to me, and I think he's would be great in a three down front because he can consume. And he's only going to get bigger and heavier, So you put him in that, he's 300 pounds. He'd easily be 330 and look good, and be able to control the A's. Um, and I think it's interesting. So he's going to UNC, I believe, on
He went. I think he went.
with this past weekend, like
Yep.
unofficial for a game. There's a bunch of the
Hmm.
guys that we've been doing promos for that I just kind of flooding my Twitter, which I've been retweeting stuff. Have been visiting places, going to places. So
Yeah. It's
getting a lot of
it's
exposure.
it's noticeable difference.
Noticeable.
You were about to mention Marshallek and Cornell reaching out to him, and Luke Gray, who had a great game last weekend in South Carolina. He's been on a Wake Forest visit. It's noticeable, and also we got a couple kids being invited to that, the new Army Combine, which is in December. It's not the old U.S. Army Bowl. That's the NBC Bowl or the Adidas Bowl or whatever it's called now. But this is a start. It's a very good start, and they would never in a million years be on anybody's radar without us. And that's not a brag. It's just reality. So,
Yeah.
the earlier you get started with us, the better. And I know we weren't an option for some of these 2023 kids. Sorry, we weren't an option until recently. But this is what's funny about it. There's a lot of schools like an App State, or I'm trying to think of schools in North Carolina, Campbell, or even into Georgia, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, that really need big men like Kade George,
Yep.
who are going to be workout guys, who are going to be leaders in the locker room, who are going to outwork everybody and be that sort of, set that bar. And maybe he pans out as a defensive tackle. Maybe you have to move him to offensive guard. Maybe. But he's got the physical skills. He's going to be able to compete at that level. Liberty is another one. My buddy Hugh Freeze just got a big contract extension. I actually texted him this is what I do with every coach that gets a lot of money. I text them and ask them if I could borrow money. And every time I do that, I get an LOL or a ha ha. Hugh Freeze actually said, share the wealth. So I think I might be sending him a Venmo request. But Liberty would be good. Those are the type of schools I think these guys are worth taking a chance on because they're big body guys that can turn into something for you, down the line or play multiple positions.
No, there's no doubt about it. And I think the awareness of those guys now and people starting to see like there are other guys, and that's why getting with us in the promo is so important. There are other guys that maybe
Your audio's a little bit off.
it is.
Well, it's on, but it's like a little bit like I hear like stuff.
Can you hear it now? Better?
Yes, much better.
Because I'm playing with the microphone. That's why.
You had it under your sweatshirt or something. It's like we couldn't hear. All right, continue. Now we can hear you.
But yeah, so it's one of those things where the promotion makes guys aware of players like Kade George, and I also think it's a smart thing on his. I'm sure it's his nickname. The White Rhino has always been his nickname, but
Great
it's
nickname.
very unique. So I could mention the White Rhino, and anybody can mention the White Rhino. And if you're a football guy that's recruiting people will start to know it as that name keeps getting out there more and more. And
Dude
more.
could be a wrestler too down the line. I know he wrestles, he boxes and stuff. So I don't know if you remember Parker Boudreaux at all, but he was a 4-star kid who went to Notre Dame, I think originally, and then he ended up transferring to UCF. He's now a professional wrestler. Brennan Williams, Brent Williams' first kid that went through the process, played at North Carolina and had a cup of coffee with the Texans. He's now a wrestler. When I see White Rhino, I'm like, man, if football doesn't work out, you gotta be a wrestler because he's just a beast.
There's no doubt about it.
Great nickname.
The Rock. He was a wrestler. Obviously, he was at the University of Miami, and then he did.
Did you have a nickname?
Did I have a nickname in college? Not really. No, I mean, like guys would call me Shoe or Shoe Dog or Shoe Daddy or things like that, but nothing like that stuck.
Mine
I
was.
I would have liked the nickname like the Freak.
I had nothing like that. Mine was Sledgehammer. You remember that Peter Gabriel song 100 years ago?
Yeah.
When that came out, I was in high school, and Sledgehammer kind of stuck because I would just try to destroy. I mean, I was very, very dirty player. Not gouge your eyes type of dirty, but just like I would try to hurt you on every play, like literally try to hurt you. And it was funny because guys would show up in high school on Monday and you'd try to see exactly what you did to them. So I had some guys show up with a neck brace, another guy showed up on crutches. And I would always take pride in that. Makes me an evil person, I think. Because nowadays, you can't hurt anybody. Like I saw there was criticism of Matt Milano's tackle of A.J. Dillon last night because he went high and he ended up hurting the guys. I don't give a crap. A.J. Dillon's 6 foot, 250 pounds. And he's coming at you like a locomotive. And he's stiff-arming you. You get that dude down no matter what it takes. Short of a gun, you get him down. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But that's not the mentality these days.
Did you see the penalty they called on? Was it the Giants game? The guy let in and he hit him with no, it was the Jets game. And what's the Jets linebacker from Alabama? My son loves him. He loves him because he's got the hair and he's tall, but he's like he's not like overly thick. He's tall.
I cannot think of it for the life of me.
I think his last name starts with an M, maybe.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I'm sure
he's the leader.
Yeah,
he's like the leader of that defense. He was a 4-star. Yeah. I can't think of his name for the life of me, but I didn't see the penalty. What did he get called for?
He came in. The quarterback was running. Who did the Jets play yesterday? New England.
Patriots.
Yes. So Mac Jones was running, and he cut back into them. Okay, and he kind of fell. Okay.
Right. And didn't slide.
The linebacker came in, and it was like one of those bang bang plays, and kind of his elbow came across and hit him in the helmet. 15-yard penalty. I could see why they called it, but the Jets coach was going nuts. He was saying, "Hey, he's coming in to tackle him because he's not giving himself up, and he connected that. Yes, he ended up connecting in the head, but it was the quarterback did not give himself up, and that
I
led
did see that. I did see that.
And then there
Yep.
was a second play later on that happened. I can't remember the second one, but the Jets coach had a big issue with it. It's tough for defensive players in the NFL because you're in these situations where I lost Mike. Hello.
Call. I get a spam call in the middle of this. If I get a call from spam, which I get all the time, I hate spam.
Black on your screen.
Yeah. So what happened was, Mac Jones is very indecisive, and that makes it difficult for the defense. He doesn't give himself up, but he doesn't lower his head for extra yardage. He just kind of like falls. And there was another play, I think we was running out of bounds, and he was knocked out of bounds, and the Patriots wanted a flag. And I don't think it was called, or if it was called, it was reversed. But I mean, that type of guy drives me nuts because I'm coming full speed. You slide, I can go over you, but if you just sort of crumple, I'm going to hit you. I'm just going to hit you, and it shouldn't have been. I know it was elbow to the head, but his head came down to the elbow. The elbow wasn't there. So again, it's crap. There's a lot of crap calls, and to me. That's why we have record-setting offenses, is why all these passing numbers have been broken, and it's why, guys like Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, who were just, serviceable quarterbacks in the NFL, they're going to be Hall of Famers, in the Marino days, they would have never even sniffed those type of accolades because now the field's so wide open, you can't hit anybody. So I'm talking about the old days in the late 80s, when you could kill somebody. That's what I tried to do. So, White Rhino plays with the same mentality. He's got a cooler nickname than me.
One of the best nicknames I've ever heard.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's another kid in the 2023 class, Ruben Owens. Running back he's a 5-star running back going to Louisville, I'm pretty sure. Yes, Ruben Owens. And he's the Black Unicorn. So we got the White Rhino and the Black Unicorn, and these nicknames are just so cool. And they will make you, like, one's a 5-star and the other one's looking for, Group 5 FCS scholarships, but it's memorable. Now, that doesn't mean go out there and get a dumb nickname if you don't have one, right? Like Luke Gray or Marshall. You don't call yourself the Cannon or the Rifleman or something like it's got to be something that you were called when you were younger. Or it's got to fit, too. I mean, we've got some live arm quarterbacks, but I don't think we have a rifleman. That to me should be Jeff George or Quinn Ewers or somebody like that with a great arm. But yeah, so I'm plugging through these, and it's, again, I've mentioned this before, and we just, talked to Coach Manis last week about it. There's trepidation. Because people have been screwed in this industry so many times by people, promoting them, that people don't know where to put their money. So it's a week-long grind. But every time I do one, I know that they're going to be satisfied, and whether they get to the level they want to or not, they're going to get at least part of their school paid for. I mean, I don't think there's anybody we had. Maybe the first couple kids were like, at best, financial aid. I don't think we have any clients currently that are just financial aid kids. They're partial scholarships or scholarship kids.
There's no doubt about it. I agree 100%. And it's great seeing that, the sidebar thing too of it. Like when we start to promote it, then they also realize kind of how it works a little bit better too. And they help themselves very well. I've noticed that a lot of them are doing a much better job since they've gotten on the promotion thing of also getting their own, this week I rushed for XYZ yards or, that stuff, because those updates do, just like it comes into my feed, coaches that are following you, it comes into their feed. They're staying up to date on it, the ones that are following you. So,
but it's also being heard. I mean, you could tweet that stuff out, but if we're not retweeting it, that's where they get the momentum from it too.
Correct.
It's like now we got the Enlos, which I love, tagging us every week in what they did that week, and we're retweeting it, and they're starting to get more and more. And you could argue that Bryce was a guy, the 2023 linebacker, that wasn't on any FBS radars, and now he is. Now again, 2023, it's tough, it's late. I don't know where he's going to land. Had he done this like and his brother has the advantage because we weren't around for Bryce when he was a sophomore and a freshman.
Right.
But his brother now has the advantage where he's going to get multiple, years of exposure from us, and it's going to make a huge difference for him. But here's what's good about that too. Ready? Even if your younger brother goes on to a higher level of football than you, there's the portal, and you can join him. So let's say his younger brother ends up at, I don't know, Rutgers, throw it out there because he's a Jersey kid. And let's say Bryce ends up going FCS, he can join him. Portal. So that's what's good about it all too. So, but I really encourage 2026, 2027, 2025 parents, get on board now. You can come to us late and we'll help, but it's much easier for us to do it when we have a lot of lead up time.
Check out myfootballcamps.com/D1. Listen, grab the one-time promo. I implore you, grab the one-time promo. Try it out. Me and Mike do our video for you. I guarantee you're going to love it. And once you got that, then we can talk about the next step for you. Don't get caught up in thinking, how many do I need? Because I think some of the people get caught up in that. How long do I need to do this? We know it's better to do it longer, but try the initial phase. You see how it works for you. See what the videos look like for yourself. It's one thing to watch the other people, and there's plenty of videos that we've done, and you can see it. But until someone does it for them, us do something for you, you won't fully grasp it. Once we do it for you, then you'll see. I guarantee you're going to see that. And
you're also going to get the level of communication that you don't expect too. I mean, you could listen to two people who have 45 plus years of experience that the 6-month promo is the way to go. Okay, that's the sweet spot. We don't really push the 12 months, and the one time you're going to sign up for the 6-month anyways, so you might as well just start with the 6-month. But if you don't believe that, or you don't believe we're going to be communicative with you, do the one time, and then you'll see that we're not going to. We're not just going to take your money and it disappear. Just not the way it works. I check in on the kids all the time, even if there's nothing new. I just checked in on Jaffe, and he said he's going to have new film after this weekend. So he's on my list to check in with this week to see if he has new film. Some of our younger kids, they're very good at sending out film the first few weeks of the season, and then the season grind occurs, and they forget, and I'm going to nudge them and say, get me new film so I can do another promo video. And that's also going to be helpful to them because you're going to have somebody else reminding you of what you need to do rather than just have to do it yourself. Like if you don't send us film for like 3 months and you're a 6-month person, we're not just going to ignore that. We're going to say, listen, it's time for your promo. Get me some new stuff. So it's like that little, voice in your ear. So, I mean, honestly, I wish people would just listen and trust. But who trusts anybody in this world? I mean, the two of us, I don't know. I probably don't look trustworthy. I know you look shady as hell with the hat on backwards. Like nobody's going to trust us. But maybe after they get to know us, they will. So let's talk about people touching people. This freaking college football world is getting a little out of control. So, we had the peanut butter and jelly incident with Penn State and Michigan, where they both went in the tunnel at halftime, and there was a lot of jawing, and people were throwing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at each other and stuff like that. And James Franklin came out and said that's just that situation where they're one tunnel and everybody uses it at the same time has been a bad deal for Michigan forever. And I wrote something and said, yeah, it's not smart, but we've been doing this for 100 years, and that was a one-off. So stop trying to deflect the fact that you got destroyed by Michigan on the tunnel garbage. But here we are 2 weeks later, and we got even worse tunnel stuff. Now we got criminal charges, lawsuits, and this is following a week where Jermaine Burton pushed a girl. We've got ourselves a situation here, and swift, aggressive discipline is what needs to happen. And I didn't think this a week ago. When I said Jermaine Burton shouldn't be kicked off the team, he shouldn't have his football career ruined. But he wasn't suspended at all. He didn't miss a minute. And that's the wrong message to send. So when you see a kid like that getting away with it, I'm not saying the Michigan State kids attacked these two players in the tunnel because they saw he got away with it. But it leads to that, okay, what discipline could I really get? And that vagueness, it's just not good.
Well, I think first of all, let's talk about the tunnel thing. So going back to Notre Dame, okay, with their tunnel, that was always an issue, okay, and that was when very rarely was there any of these kind of issues, okay, but the tunnel was always an issue, right? If you remember Notre Dame, I'm assuming there's still one tunnel for Notre Dame. I don't know. The stadium's newer. They updated it, so I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, but I went down the tunnel, where the players go, play like a champion today, and out. I just don't know where you go back in. My assumption was that, but you go down the tunnel, slap the board, and then out. And I'm not sure where you exit, so I don't know that one. Michigan, I know for sure, is one tunnel and everybody funnels that way, but Notre Dame, I'm not sure.
Yep. So they may have changed that years, but it was like the years ago. I remember there used to always be jostling in there. Michigan's one person tunnel. It's just a headache that is unnecessary. That's my first thought process on it. And having played, and thinking about how I would be, I was a raved lunatic. If another team was walking in the same area where I was standing there, I'd be ready. I'd be ready, okay, for something. Now, that is one thing. The leap to the next thing, which was the Michigan State players jumping one of the Michigan players,
assault.
Is assault. So it's one thing players to be jawing at each other, two groups kind of coming out of the locker room and saying things or getting close to each other. It's another thing for 10 guys to jump a player who looked like he wasn't even dressed or something. But
no, he had his helmet off. He was dressed, and he. And I'm not going to defend Michigan State at all, but what he did is he was taunting them at the end, and Michigan State was going. There's an unwritten rule, kind of, that at the end of the game, the road team will get off first. And then, Michigan sort of holds back and waits to go in the tunnel. So there's not a mix of players.
Right.
But there's an opportunity for a mix of players because if Michigan wants to get off and Michigan State wants to get off, there's only one way. There's only one exit. And that's the problem. But this dude was talking, he was yapping, and he went skipping into the tunnel when Michigan State was their tunnel, essentially. And he was yapping. Him and another player went in. And he was dressed, and that's kind of why, it all started. It's not his fault. You should never assault somebody, but that's what happened.
That's what happened. Well, first of all, the one tunnel thing was ridiculous. The second thing is, I just think there's no excuse. Should the kid from Michigan have gone in there when Michigan State was in there? No. But if you have to be mature enough that there are going to be idiots that jaw on you, right? You could say something back to them, but to physically go after them is just absurd. And the fact, obviously there may or may not. I don't know if there are criminal charges that are filed or not.
There are now.
The bare minimum is those guys should not be playing college football anymore. To me, that's how not at least not at that level, not for a long time. And then maybe at some point in the future they can get back. But that part of it just brings down college football. And there's more. I've seen more problems, obviously in a few weeks, but over the last 4 or 5 years in college football. And you could you could argue how this all happens. Is all the money pouring into it part of the, who knows, maybe, right? But without controls, there's no damage. And the reason why we talked about it on the pre-show, the way that the NFL, and there's a lot of things the NFL does, like we talked about it earlier with tackling, like as a defensive player, I would probably be driven crazy by the things that go on. It's harder to tackle and stuff. But when Quay Walker pushed the Bills practice squad player after he didn't realize he was trying to help him up. He thought he was pushing him. He couldn't see it. He pushed this guy, and they threw the penalty, and then immediately they call up to the NFL home office, to Troy Vincent. I think he makes those decisions directly. He's Roger Goodell's right-hand guy. I don't care whether people like it or don't like it. The swift action, and then obviously there'll be more ramifications, but the initial swift action of ejecting him has an impact. Those players know that that's kind of what the standard is if you do something completely out of line, right? So it keeps things somewhat in perspective from an NFL player standpoint, because obviously those guys are making a lot of money. And if there's nothing to be able to say, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, this is unacceptable, it's not, you have a problem. The problem in the NCAA is, who are you finding? You finding the coaches? Are you finding the college? How does that impact the player? The player doesn't have any money. Okay. Well, some of them do, but this player doesn't have any. These players probably don't have any money. Okay. And then the issue with, yes, you suspend them, all those kind of things, until there's something from the NCAA, who does absolutely nothing, until there's something from the NCAA that says, hey, you can't do these things, this is the action's going to be taken. And until they come up with a plan for actually penalizing players, and then probably coaches, I don't know. I don't know the extent of it. Like, how did this happen? But until there's some sort of thing that people understand as an issue, and maybe it's with the conference, I don't know, you're going to have more and more of these issues because there's more money in college football. There's an emphasis on getting the very best player that you can at any cost. It does not matter who that person is, as long as he qualifies. And if that's the case, then you're going to have a situation where you need to have penalties if something is done wrong. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So I wrote that the coaches should get slapped, and I really don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know. Right now, the school will take the hit. If you charge the field, the school takes the hit, and it's a small hit. I mean, I think there was a $100,000 fine for Tennessee for the fans charging the field, and Tennessee athletic department. That's like it's like a dollar bill. It's nothing. So then it comes down to team discipline, and it's the coach's decision. Jermaine Burton, Alabama, Nick Saban decided he shouldn't suspend him, do anything to him. And so now it's on Mel Tucker in the university. They suspended 4 players. They're going to probably suspend more, but there's criminal charges being filed now. One player is saying he got a broken nose. Another player is saying he got hit 3 times with a helmet in different places. Now it's, going to turn into an assault case. And I think the only way to really make it, you can't find the players like the NFL, Quay Walker, he loses a game, he gets kicked out of that game. He should be suspended for a couple more just to say, listen, you don't put your hands on anybody who's not wearing a freaking helmet and shoulder pads. I don't care who it is, official, a cameraman. We had the Devontae Adams thing where he pushed over the camera dude. That type of stuff where you put your hands on somebody. And honestly, the other way around. I saw a fan hitting, just tapping Mel Tucker on the head as he was walking to the tunnel. Now, video evidence should get that guy and arrest him for assault. Now, tapping somebody on the head isn't assault, but keep your hands off people. Jermaine Burton, keep your hands off this girl that got in your way. Idiot fan, keep your hands off Mel Tucker. Players, keep your hands off each other. On the field is where you tackle. Off the field, you can jaw all you want, but you got to be disciplined. So, you find Mel Tucker, you suspend Mel Tucker, you suspend Jim Harbaugh. Again, everybody. This is what annoys me is that Tennessee fans want Jermaine Burton, to die, and Alabama fans are defending him and saying you shouldn't have been on the field rushing it, and then Michigan State fans are defending their players because those two kids ran into the tunnel when Michigan State was in there, and Michigan fans all want them, to be suspended. Um, Fans are just fans. They really don't know. You remember Juwan Howard slapped that other coach in basketball? I don't know if you follow basketball at all, but he's the head coach of Michigan basketball, and he slapped another coach. And all the Michigan fans were like, "Oh, he shouldn't be suspended for this, that, and the other. He didn't mean it, blah, blah, blah." And now we turn around and, Michigan fans want all these Michigan State fans to be like, Michigan State players to be suspended. Hit the coach. The coach makes a ton of money. The coach is the one who will discipline these kids. You hit the coach. If you hit Nick Saban with a suspension and a fine for Jermaine Burton, I can guarantee you he's going to discipline Jermaine Burton the proper way. But if there's no repercussions to Nick Saban, he's going to do whatever he wants, and Jermaine Burton's going to go off scot-free. So I say hit the coach because we don't have another different solution. But you really have to be very punitive here, or it's going to continue, because right now there's just not enough punishment for incidents. And listen, I've gotten scraps before. Everybody got scraps. We just saw last night, if you watched the Green Bay Buffalo game, Stephon Diggs and Jair Alexander coming down the same tunnel, jabbing at each other, talking smack at each other's faces. That's part of football. Neither of them threw a punch. Neither of them assaulted the other. Nobody was grabbed and assaulted by 10 different people swinging helmets. There's a level of responsibility that you have as a football player to take things as far as they should go. And these guys overstepped. So I think Mel Tucker should be slapped and Jim Harbaugh should be slapped.
Well, it's interesting because the Stephon Diggs thing, I thought they were right at the borderline, because I was like, I got the vibe, like watching that part, I thought, like that could lead to something too. So it didn't, but they were so close to each other. It's one of these things like, yeah, I think the coach, I agree with you. Coaches should have some ramification. They shouldn't be scot-free. No doubt about it. There should be some ramification, whether it's financial or suspension. Financial probably wouldn't matter because they have so much money. So,
it would matter though.
You do both.
I think if you hit a university with $100,000 fine, it's one thing. I don't care how much Harbaugh makes, $7 million, $8 million a year, and Mel Tucker's got $80 million guarantee contract. You hit him with $100,000, he's going to feel it, and he's going to be pretty pissed off about it, and he's going to in turn discipline properly. So I think universities, they absorb it. Coaches would take it pretty personally.
Yeah, and I think that the players still need to have some level of ramification. So I don't, I want to say you could trust the coaches to do something, but in the era of transferring, it's too easy for a player. Let's say Mel Tucker decides, he gets fined, he gets suspended, and he says, "Hey, you guys are suspended for the rest of the season." I don't know which players it was, but let's say, that player's just like, I'm not going here anymore. I'm out of here. So where's the ramification on it? He goes to the next place and acts the same way. So
but the next place won't touch him. If he costs his coach money, if I'm a head coach, I'm not touching these kids.
I don't think so. I think these guys don't care about anything other than winning. I really don't. I think the only thing they're in, first of all, financially, and good for them on this, they're financially incented to win, right? So why should they care? See this, why should they care about anything else at the college level other than trying to win? Yes, I get it. There are some guys that do, okay? We kind of make our jokes about like guys we like and don't like, or but there are guys that absolutely do, right? But that is not in his coaching description, meaning being a great person is not actually in their coach's description. So,
No.
which you love it when they are, but that's not in their coach's description. And that's the thing that I think, like, if, let's say, Michigan State player, 2 of them, get released for whatever reason, they had the most involvement or whatever. They get released. You better believe FAU is picking them up immediately. That's how I look at it. I don't.
Yeah. No, it could be if they're that level of talent.
If they're good enough, listen, if they're a bench warmer, 4th string.
No.
Right.
But if they're good enough. But it's a fine line. I mean, if I'm a head coach, yeah, I got to win. And it's not a character issue. I don't care what you did in another place. I don't think you're going to do it at my place.
Right.
But it's also if that kid cost his coach a couple game suspension and $100,000, if I'm a coach at a lower level, I'm like, maybe I'm not touching this kid because I don't want to lose 2 game suspension. He's a knucklehead. There's got to be some personal responsibility on the coaches, and people are going to disagree with this. The players are players and they do what they do, and you can't. I'll tell you this, if you suspend Mel Tucker for 2 games, which you cost him 2 game checks and also fine him, the next time his team is going to exit a field, home or away, it's going to be under his guidance.
I agree 100%.
Now, should the coach have to be in charge of everything from game plan to how his team exits the field? Probably not. But in this day and age,
he can appoint someone.
Right. And so what's going to happen is, we're going to lose that football game, and we're going to decide very well as a team when we're going to hit that tunnel. Are we going to hit that tunnel first, or are we going to hit that tunnel after? Okay, they're going over and singing their alma mater. The tunnel's free. Let's go. Go, go, go. And you got people directing them to go, and focused on that. But that should be the police's job. I get it, but they don't have as much vested. So it's just, there's certain things in the world you can't solve. I mean, look at Myles Garrett tried to kill, Mason Rudolph with his helmet. And he served a suspension, but he's back playing. That could have been criminal charges. That could have been assault. I mean, Marty McSorley, if you remember, hit Donald Brashear in the head with his stick. These things are always going to occur because there's always knuckleheads and there's always emotions that run. The punishment needs to be severe enough so that the next people that do it, they're going to do it, but they're handled appropriately. Like, okay, we saw this at Michigan State. This is what we did. There's no exception for you. In fact, it might even be worse for you now that you've seen an example. So let's say it's Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, I know it's at home this year, but let's say it was at Michigan. Okay, everybody, memo, Michigan State ended ugly. If this happens here, you're all going to get the same treatment or worse. And I can tell you it would be addressed, but I don't know what the solution is. And people say people shouldn't storm the field. I mean, you got 107,000 people at Neyland Stadium. How are you going to stop them? How do you stop them from storming the field?
Can't.
You're going to hire 107,000 cops and have them individually handle each person? You can't. So you got to minimize the damage. And
the cops have to really specifically be there to watch for. They really have to pay attention to watching for something that happens, and if they can, taking care of that, because you're not going to have enough police officers. You're right, to stop it. Like they're not in riot control. If you try to riot control it, you're just.
I know you shoot rubber bullets and stuff, but it is a riot. It's a celebratory riot, but it's a mass of people that you can't contain or control.
Well, what does soccer do in Europe?
I don't know. People die. Don't people die?
Remember, people used to die because they would have these high. They don't have them anymore, but they used to have
fall over
the fences, and they would get crushed.
Oh, they get crushed. Yeah. Well, I think I've also seen hoses, and I've seen like true riot situations in soccer. I don't really know.
Soccer in Europe is
But I mean, you can't do that in the United States. You can't like take a water hose to fans. Everyone will sue you. It's an untenable situation. It's going to happen again, but you can be smart about it. You could say, okay, this is how we exit the field at Michigan from now on. Road team first, 5-minute delay for home team. Some sort of guidance. You don't have to build a separate tunnel if you don't want to, but figure out the way to get everybody off the field. And I don't really know what to do. And Jermaine Burton said he was scared. I've seen the video 18,000 times. He wasn't scared. He was pissed. And he was bumped into a few times by people, not purposely, and he was getting jostled and he was upset. And then this girl, went by, was in his way, stepped out, and was videotaping, and he smacked her camera. Personal accountability is what it comes down to. So, I know there's a lot of people talking. Paul Feinbaum said that all 10 of these players for Michigan State should be dismissed from school. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe we have to dismiss all 10 of them. And maybe that will reach the next knuckleheads. But I will tell you this, the guy who's going to be there in 4 years is Mel Tucker. The players that are going to be there in 4 years are all going to be players that weren't part of this and didn't see this and don't have responsibility in it, and they might do the same thing. He's got the responsibility. So
that's a valuable point in the sense that the NFL, because players could be there longer, and there's a trickle-down effect, meaning that one player communicates to the next player, don't do this, you know what I mean? This happened. At the union, they have a union that's strong that probably would say, hey, this – I'm sure they have meetings where, hey, this is an example of what not to do. This is, to help the players understand these things. That's not – you're right. That's not the case in college. They're literally there for 4 years, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, whatever the time period is, and there's no way that information is passed down to the next group,
right.
nor is there any incentive. And more than likely, in my opinion, Mel Tucker is not going to be there in 4 years. He's moved on to somewhere else. Either he's winning and he's moved on, or he's losing and he's moved on. So
Brian Harsin just got fired at Auburn.
Really?
Why now? I just don't understand. Like, everybody knew he was going to be fired, after the Georgia game.
I don't know why they hired him, because they were ready to fire him 2 seconds after they hired him.
You know what I think just happened? Okay, so here's my 2 cents on this. Hugh Freeze just signed a massive extension with Liberty, and I think they're starting to see that guys are re-upping their deals, and they don't want to lose any of them because the position wasn't open. You're not able to really communicate with Hugh Freeze and tamper in that way, but agents can talk to agents and stuff. And I think it was a situation where they really wanted Hugh Freeze. They just saw he signed an extension. Now, he still might take this job, but now they're like, well, we can't lose out on any other potential coaches for this guy that we didn't want in the first place and tried to fire in the off season. So the timing of it's very interesting, but that just came through, and that's not an attractive job to me at all. I don't like that job. I don't want boosters dictating what I do. I don't want, to have to glad hand the right people immediately when I get there, or else I'm going to be fired. I mean, Harsin was a fish out of water. He fell under scrutiny. They didn't like him, and they've been trying to get rid of him since mid-season of his first year.
Yep.
Not good.
Listen, they got rid of Gus Malzahn, who brought them to a national championship. I mean, when was the last time that had happened?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton.
When Gus was the offensive coordinator.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then before that, when?
Jeez.
Bo Jackson time?
I mean, they didn't even get there. Like, the best team they had prior to that was the Tuberville undefeated team, which got screwed out of the national championship. But no, not forever. I mean, Cam Newton in 2010 was, Gene Chizik, but everybody thought it was Gus. And then in 2014, I think it was, against Florida State, that was Gus for sure. But he wasn't beating Alabama enough. He wasn't winning enough. It was very consistent in Auburn's defense with Gus. But Harsin never got a chance. No. I mean, and Chizik was booed at the airport, if you remember. He was hired from Iowa State, and he didn't have a good record there. But he won a national championship, so that saved him. But a year later, people wanted him gone at Auburn, and now Harsin, they wanted him gone from day one. So I don't know who's going to take this job. I know somebody will. Obviously, it's going to be like a $6 million job. And maybe it's Hugh Freeze, despite the extension. But that's a lot of stress and pressure for me. Like if I'm Hugh Freeze, I'm getting $5 million a year at Liberty. And I've been in the SEC West, and it kind of ruined me. You know, I have NCAA allegations for cheating. I got off-field stuff. And my family was almost ruined from the actions that I took as an SEC West coach. I wouldn't go back to Auburn and ruin my life again. Stay there.
Yeah, there's I looked this up and I was curious. And Gus's career was interesting at Auburn. He actually started off great. Then he kind of was okay. I mean, he was 8-5. He was 12-2. That was the first year. 8-5, 7-6, 8-5, 10-4, 8-5, 9-4, 6-4.
Yeah, very up and down. And he beat Alabama to get to the SEC title game. One of those years with the kick six, which a lot of people felt was luck. So Gus was way too up and down. Harsin didn't get a chance. I don't think he was a good fit. I mean, you can't bring a guy from Boise State into the SEC and expect him to recruit. But they're going to have to make this one a smart hire, a really good hire, and a guy that is willing to take all this garbage and deal with it, or somebody who's just too powerful to even care. I mean, no AD at Auburn yet. The Mississippi State AD is interviewing for that job. But I don't think the AD will get the credit for the hire, but they won't, they won't let him hire somebody that they don't want. So, you put an Urban Meyer in there, the boosters aren't going to be able to talk. But if you put a Jamie Chadwell in there from Coastal Carolina or something like that, he's going to be run by these guys as well. So Auburn, it sucks too, because Auburn is a really good program. That atmosphere is amazing. They've got a great tradition. They're built recruiting-wise, bordering Georgia, and with the talent level in Alabama rising and their ability to recruit Florida, they've got a great tri-state area to build, but they just can't get it going. Gus also made some mistakes. I mean, in the end, he stopped recruiting offensive linemen. He's taken like 2 offensive linemen each class.
Yep.
And they ended up so thin on that. And then, of course, the boosters made him start Bo Nix over Malik Willis, who transferred to Liberty, who ended up being great. And now Bo Nix is being great at Oregon. There's just so many things that were out of his control, but also in his control, that he allowed things to sort of falter there. So, Gus is living life at UCF, loving it, less pressure. Now he's headed to the Big 12. Somebody's going to take this pressure cooker job, and it's going to be a nightmare for them. But, I mean, I'd take it. If they offer me $6 million, I'll take the job.
Yeah, well, I think I would take it for.
You know what? I might not even.
5.
I might not even. I don't know if I'd want to move to Alabama and work that hard. It's a lot of work. Being a coach sucks. Like a college coach, it's shit. People don't understand. They're like, "Oh my God, James Franklin's he's so overpaid. He can't beat Michigan or Penn State. He can't beat Ohio State. He doesn't beat top 10 teams." That dude's job sucks. Every day of his life, he has to work 17, 18 hours a day. He has to text with recruits all day. He has to glad hand boosters all day. He has to manage a football team. He never gets any rest. There's no days off. He deserves every penny he makes, whether he wins or not. The job sucks. No, I'm turning down the Auburn job. I'm officially withdrawing my name from it. I don't want the Auburn job.
I would take it.
I'm going to put that out there, that you are a candidate and I am no longer a candidate. Imagine if I tweet out, I might even tweet it out and say, I've withdrawn my name from consideration for the Auburn head coaching job. How embarrassing would that be for them?
They should hire Deion Sanders.
They're going to talk to him for sure. I don't think he'd take that job.
I don't think he would, but because I don't think he wants to. I think he wants to be in a situation where he has more control. But
I think Georgia Tech would be a great fit for him, or Florida State if things don't pan out there. I mean, Norvell's got 5 wins now, but those are the 2 I think that would be great for him. So
Phil Mannis wants it.
Well, if I could do it from Connecticut, I'd do it. Like trifecta, yeah. You guys be the on. I'll handle all the portal and recruiting stuff from Connecticut.
Yeah, you're gonna do all the Zoom meetings.
Oh, I'm the king of Zoom, man. I just don't want to go anywhere or be any place around people. I did that for 25 years. I don't
So,
know how you.
head coach, Coach Farrell's on Zoom, guys. All right, let's get to the meeting rooms.
Yeah, one of the tri coaches
You're like
is on
Oz.
Zoom.
You're like Oz.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know how you deal with people all the time. Like I did it for so long and to a different level. Like you did it, for your business and I did it for a career with a corporation. But the whining and the incessant complaining, it's just I don't miss that part of it at all. I just don't want it.
Yeah, no, I just have this vision of you at this just like where you are right now, but as on the big screen where they come into the team room and you're like Oz, okay, fellas, do not beat up anyone in tunnels.
Oh my God. I would be the biggest jerk. I would be the worst player personnel manager because I think would be my part of it, would be player personnel, portal, recruiting. I'd be the biggest jerk. Nobody would get out of hand.
Oh, no, he's GM now. Barton Simmons.
Oh, he's at Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt GM.
Well, he'll definitely have he'll be looking for a job soon. No offense to Clark, but the only person that could do that job was James Franklin. He did it great for 3 years.
He was great.
Yeah, but it's an impossible job. The facilities suck. The academics are, unlike anybody else.
Good job. Derek Mason did a good job for a while
I will tell you this. Somebody told me when Derek Mason was hired from Stanford, I was told that the dude just has no clue. He's way over his head. And I've been told this by many, about many coaches, and 99% of that works out, where they're just clueless. They have no idea how to be a head coach. This is not going to work out for them. And I usually know who they are and whether that's true. I believe that Derek Mason was over his head and whatnot. And they had some okay seasons.
Yeah, they did.
I thought he was going to be like you remember Hazel at Purdue?
Yeah.
Like a 3-year, 1-11 every year and you're out. Or Chad Morris at Arkansas. Yep. So he surprised me. He lasted longer than I thought, but that's an impossible job. But I think at Auburn, I could put together top 10 recruiting classes at Auburn. There's no doubt in my mind. So I'll do my part on the recruiting end and the portal. And the portal, I'm a wizard of the portal, man. I know who's going in. I know when they're going in. Barton needs to smile more. Look at me. I don't smile ever. I never smile. I haven't smiled in 25 years. No, you don't need to smile.
Although when you're charged with the GM, he probably does have to shake a lot of hands there.
Yeah, I don't know why. Him and Clark.
What is the GM? Do all the places have GMs now, or that was?
Well, they're not called GMs. They're player personnel directors. You remember, the Bob Lasavitas of the world and those guys. They've been around forever. But player personnel. But now you're a CEO as the head coach and the GM is it's a different title. It's the same thing though, but there's a lot more things to juggle. You got to juggle roster management with the portal, with recruiting, with NIL. So now it's a difficult job. He took that job. Him and Clark are very, very good friends. I think they played together. So he took that job. He had a cushy gig, man, at 24/7. Barton honestly was writing probably one article a week. You know how many my website did last week? Articles? Just guess a number.
7 days or 5?
7 days.
7 days. 21?
55.
Wow.
55, which is unmanageable. But yet we do it. Barton was writing one article a week. He went and he stole my, I did a 3-point stance, and he started writing an article called Cover 3. Like, same idea, just stole it. He was really good friends with Shannon Terry at 24/7, so he's never going to get fired. Even when Shannon left, he had it made. He was able to just mail it in, but he wanted a different challenge, and I get that. And he'll be definitely a guy that I think he'll go back to on three. You
You
know,
think so?
that's Shannon's company now. You know, but I think if he wants to stay in the personnel world, once Clark is fired at Vanderbilt in a year, you know, not this season but next season, I think he could do that. I think he's knowledgeable enough to
Yes.
do that. What he was really good at to me was I used to do the TV for the Army Bowl, and it was live national television on NBC,
I
and
remember.
I hated it. It was so stressful. I mean, you're talking live, millions of people. You're talking with producers. When I did ESPN, I would work with those guys. You know, I'd do 3 or 4 hits a week. I knew them. I had a comfort level with them. I had a comfort level with my co-hosts. NBC's once a year. They come down on a Thursday. The game's on a Saturday. They don't care about you. They pressure you. They make you feel super uncomfortable, and then they throw the red light on you to millions of people. And I sucked at it. I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't. Barton was 10 times better at it than me. That was his niche, man. I thought TV was going to be where he went into.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting. It was an interesting move. That I realized that him being with his buddy from high school that he played with, it was an interesting mix. I feel like he probably just you get a little stagnant and you need a few years to do something else, and that's kind of what it becomes. Vanderbilt, yeah, it should be like it should have been like Northwestern. They can never find that guy like the Northwestern head coach who just is such an amazing coach that he somehow wins
Not now.
7-8 games every year.
Not now. They're horrible. Did you just see they lost to who they just lose to? Iowa. So they're the only team I think that's given up more than 20 points to Iowa this week. They're 1-7.
Is that what they are this year?
Oh man! And Fitzgerald's a great coach. He's a great former player there, and he's won the Big Ten West twice at Northwestern, which has academic restrictions, not a great home recruiting territory. The guy's amazing. This year, though, they're just so horrible. I mean, they're really, really, really. Their one win is that opener against Nebraska. They started off 1-0, and they haven't been close to beating anybody since. I
didn't realize he's actually been on a decline.
Just this year. Well, last year wasn't great either.
We're 3-9.
Yeah, last year wasn't great either. But usually he has a 3-9 year and then follows with a 9-win year. Like every even year, if you look at that, if you're looking on Wikipedia, every even year is like a good record.
Yeah, interesting.
And every odd year is a bad record.
Well,
except for this year.
This is the first year after that 2 in a row bad ones.
Yeah. I mean, he's unfireable. They won't fire him.
Oh no!
But he might get frustrated and step down though.
Eventually. It could take. It would have to take like 3 or 4 years of those kind of records for them to be like, okay, you've been here.
But who's a great Vanderbilt player like Fitzgerald, who, with Gary Barnett turned that program into something. Yeah. He was there. Like Vanderbilt, they don't have a player like that you could think of that's iconic that could be a coach and take over.
Has Vanderbilt ever been good?
No, before Franklin, there were some down years, but they would have the off 8-4 year or 8-3 year here and there, but very, very, very rarely. Franklin he won 9 games twice there, I believe, and he went to 3 bowls, and that was amazing. Just un-Vanderbilt-like. But before that, you look at the records, and they're just not good. What's your son dressing up at? Is that who you're talking to?
He's getting. Troy, you want to say hi to Mike Farrell real quick?
What's
standing in front of me for the last 20 minutes? Why don't you say hi at least?
Well, what's he going to dress up as? What's up, buddy?
Right here, Troy. Right here.
Nice. What's up? What are you going to be?
What are you?
A Ninja Turtle.
Nice. Which one?
Michelangelo.
Nice. Michelangelo. That's awesome. So what time are you guys going out?
I think 3. I have to go to the doctor briefly. All right, good.
Okay.
And I have to go to the doctor briefly, but he's probably gonna go. They already did a parade. He'll probably.
Did Do they do trunk and treat and stuff like that too?
They did that.
So he's got more candy already than he knows what to do with.
That's endless.
Still fun though. I used to go out.
Oh yeah,
and I loved it, man. I loved it. Now I can't stand it because I'm afraid like driving around I'm gonna hit one of these kids, because it's dark and they're all wearing like ninja outfits and stuff. But when I was a kid, I loved going trick or treating.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah.
I used to get. You remember you get the pillowcases and you?
Yeah, that's what I used, the pillowcase.
That's it. That's you fill up your pillowcase. Boom, come back home. Drop it all into. I put it like into a big pile, and then I'd go fill up my pillowcase again. Like I would just do it over and sprint the house. As I got older, when you're young, you walk with your. I don't think my parents ever did it with me. That was a different time here. We just maybe when I was real little.
Yeah, real little. But yeah, 10, 11, you went out by yourself. 8, 9, you went out by yourself.
Yeah.
With your buddies,
Now they probably don't do that until they get to be like 12 or less.
Oh my God, not even. I mean, 12. I would think they start maybe. But there's somebody circling. Now, forget it.
Yeah.
I had older brothers. One's 10 years older than me, and one was 5 years older than me. So what sucked is, first of all, they would always get more candy because they were smarter and they knew where to go. But when I was like 7 or 8, I would come home with my candy and my pillowcase, and they would have twice as much. Not my older. I mean, he was 17 at the time, so he wouldn't do it. But my older brother, 5 years. When I was 7, he was 12. He'd come home, bigger pillowcase, and then he'd just steal half my stuff.
Oh yeah.
And there was no, mother, father stepping in. No. Like you just had to fight for your own life.
I would trade with my younger brother, and I'd be like, you don't want that, and
yeah.
He'd be like, oh, I'm like, well, I'll give you 3 of these crappy ones,
right?
And I'll take Reese's.
Right, and he would fall for it because he wanted to please you. But my brother wouldn't do that. He would just take my stuff. It just to piss. He wouldn't want it. He would just do it to piss me off. And then I would try to scrap with him, and then he'd beat the crap out of me, and then I would cry probably, and then he'd get in trouble then, but he'd still keep my stuff. Like that's growing up with older brothers. You become tough.
Yeah,
nothing can get you.
I was the oldest, so.
Well, it must be a different dynamic because the older brothers, picked on the younger brothers. Being the youngest,
I think I picked on them. Yeah,
you have to scrap.
I used to do. My sister to this day, I think she's still scarred from what I used to do. The make believe I would tease her and I would hold her down. I'd make believe I was going to drop spit in her mouth and just suck it up.
Oh yeah, that's fun. She's probably in therapy as we speak.
Definitely traumatized from that.
That's part of growing up, though, man. It's the way it is. So yeah. So let's wrap it up. It's 1:30. It's almost trick or treat time.
Let's go.
My football camps. It's only 1:30. MyFootballCamps.com/D1. Get recruiting promotion. We'll get you noticed, and if you're good enough, the coaches will take notice of you. And I guess maybe next week we'll shoot for being on time.
Yeah, you got it.
Sure. It's 2 weeks in a row, right?
It is.
Last week you were 10 minutes late.
Last week?
Yeah. Because I always have a hard out. Today I don't have a hard out, but usually I got a hard out like once. So I start texting you at 12:05, and I'm like, "Let's go! I got a hard out." And then you're like, So I'll stay on you the next week.
You got it. All right.
See ya.
Let's wrap it up. And great. We had Bill Manis chiming in today, which was great. A little interaction never hurts. All right. See you next week.